Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGUT9's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Paris. Pat, how are you? If I sounded much different, a lot's happened in the last week since we did our Huddle Health-wise.
You and me both. Yeah. So, I hope I'm on the downward side of it. I feel like I am, but I think you're still maybe a little bit, I don't know. You're a little behind where I was. Let's put it that way.
I'm about a day or so behind you. That is accurate. You went a day before I did. What we're talking about is the flu and more ravaging through the KGUT9 newsroom. I had the flu.
I don't remember anything like this before, Jason.
I had the flu, an upper respiratory infection, and something else too.
Sometimes you got to play hurt, though, Jason. We're playing hurt,
and so, but I'm at the part where I can go to work. I can do a very light workout.
Right.
Nothing strenuous. And so I feel like 70, 80%. So we'll power through here.
Yep.
And but that's, I'm just saying it because hey, that's why I don't sound 100%. Anyway, we're going to start, Pat, with this week's Huddle poll question. And that's what a lot of people are talking about here, maybe talking about a little bit too much, I think. And that's Tom Brady in the broadcast booth. Should he return next year? Now, listen, he's got a long-term contract, so this is just kind of like an opinion of, whether or not he should return. And this isn't exactly how I drew it up here, but you could either vote A, no, he wasn't great at it, and he's got bigger fish to fry. Or maybe that's B, is he's got bigger fish to fry. Is the Raiders co-owner now, a part owner where he's got bigger fish to fry. C is, he did a good job, especially for his first year. Or D, which is something that I kind of thought all along, which was to put him on the pregame show. Pat, would you vote A, B, C, or D to Tom? And you can vote on the KGUT9.com or on Twitter.
Yep.
Would like most of you to vote. We're going to show the results at the end of the show here. What would you vote for Tom Brady here? Live poll question.
And you can use the QR code there you see at the bottom of your screen if you're joining us. I voted already. I went on to vote already. And while several of the, maybe you could feel a little bit about each one, as I often do. I kind of go back and forth a little bit. But I picked B, and no, he's the Raiders owner, and I think he should focus on that. And that's not a knock on what he did. People are kind of kicking him for this playoff game where he messed up a player's name and whatever. I actually think he did a very good job. I was impressed with Tom Brady. I thought he was out of the gate a little slow, but I thought he got better as the season went on, just like you'd expect Tom Brady to do. He was, I guarantee you that he had a coach. I know he did. They always do. And he got better. The team got better. And he did a fine job. And he still had some moments, some aha moments where it was like he knew exactly what play they were going to run, and he was right, and they ran it. He was right a lot. And I thought he did a really good job. But I also said all along that when he took over part ownership of the Raiders, and I know we've had this discussion before too, but I think that it's going to, in some ways, keep him out of some meetings potentially as a broadcast team meets with the opposing teams. There might be some potential, cries of foul from other teams if he's also getting a little deeper reach into the Raiders organization this next year, which I think he will. I really think he should just go off and be the Raiders co-owner and go that route.
Yeah, if you can find a way to remove the financial aspect of it, I would vote to B. He's got bigger fish to fry as the Raiders owner. I think there can be kind of like a halfway in the sense that maybe he returns to Fox, but is in the pregame show. Listen, let's not be strange here. A big part of Tom Brady's appeal is what he looks like. Okay, put him on the pregame show where everybody can see what he looks, how he's dressed and how put together he is and all that. Put him on the pregame show, and it doesn't have to be every week. It just be whenever. He doesn't have those restrictions, and yet he can fulfill some of the broadcast responsibilities and still be part of the Raiders owners. That's what I would have. Kind of a little bit of a mix.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with his performance. Was he Troy Aikman? Nobody is. Was he bad? No. So I'm with you. I voted B.
Well, and I also think it's not unlike a player. I mean, in a sport, his improvement from year 1 to year 2, we may never know, but that's usually when you make the best, the most progress is, again, the coaching would have been there, and he could have looked back at what he did and move forward from there. And he might have been approaching Troy Aikman after a few years. I don't know, but I don't think it's in his, for his legacy. He doesn't need to do that. His legacy is already set. So if you want to keep your hand in the game in some way, then why not become the face of the Raiders, one of the great franchises of all time that's been suffering through some horrible years of not being very good,
Well,
So
that's an even bigger challenge. I mean, it didn't work out so great for Michael Jordan, when he was the face of the Wizards or Charlotte. That's not an easy job either. So he'll have a heck of a challenge there.
yeah,
But I think he's on that stratosphere with Michael Jordan,
clearly, yeah.
Whereas, he can do more. Anyway, that was our Huddle poll question. We'll show the results later in the show. We want to get to the local stuff here with Arizona basketball. Pat, the team has won 6 in a row. They're 4-0 in the Big 12 play. Noticed a couple something interesting. Tommy Lloyd has gotten emotional in news conferences, but after an Arizona win. So this has happened multiple times now, okay? And I don't mean after a loss where he's emotional, upset, or emotional yelling and screaming. He's subdued and calm after a loss. He's getting emotional after wins. Earlier this year, it was about, I think, the trainer. This one was about getting on the team. And notice it's good, Pat, that he does it after a win, right? If you're going to get on the team, he does it after a win. Yeah. So I want to play a couple of clips. Let's just start with the first one. And the first one is him just kind of on the team's performance after nearly blowing another double-digit lead in the win over UCF.
Obviously, I'm upset with how dumb we played. And, I mean, there's no other way to put it. We were dumb. Our fundamentals were poor. Our late game execution was poor. And it's just not acceptable. If somebody would have told me, when we got back to Tucson after the UCLA debacle, that would be 4-0 in conference, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So I love where we're at, but I'm also going to fight for where we're going.
Little insight there, Pat, into the sense that he didn't really think the program was in great shape after that UCLA loss. He was calm and subdued after that.
He called it a debacle, Jason, which, that's even us die on the wall, fight to the end fans. I wouldn't have called it a debacle. I thought it was another example of this team not having that intestinal fortitude or that toughness to maintain a big lead. But if Tommy Lloyd calls it a debacle, he must know something about what they're not responding to their challenges. They're not responding to their coaching. And he saw it not only UCLA, at Cincinnati, but they were able to win the Cincinnati game. West Virginia, they blow a lead, but they win. That game the other night, they blew a 14-point lead in the first half, got to be tied, and then they had a 3-point lead at halftime. And then a 15-point lead, and they only won by 8, and it was because just sloppy play. So I thought it was really telling that he said that their play is dumb and that it was a debacle, the loss to UCLA.
And then the other moment that I picked out, so in the past, he's always, when there's people have asked about Caleb Love not having great spurts during games or not having good games, he's always kind of held back and said, hey, listen, I know what type of player Caleb Love is, blah, blah, blah. We never heard him talk like this about Caleb Love before. And this is, I believe he led the team in points with either him or Del Orso in the game against Central Florida. Here's Tommy Lloyd on Caleb Love after the UCF win the other night.
Caleb was great to start, was not good enough at the end. Whether it's shot selection or dribbling up the sideline against a trap, Caleb's played college basketball for 5 years. He knows better than that. Falling down, okay, this stuff shouldn't happen. I'm counting on this guy to be like an all-American level player. And I love Caleb, and I've given him a lot. He's got to be better. This is bottom line. He's got to be better.
In other words, time's up. Cupcake came here and there, but now, it's time to step up. Your thoughts on him finally acknowledging that Caleb Love hasn't played like Caleb Love?
I think all of this began when Caleb Love decided to come back for this extra year, this 5th year, the second with the Wildcats. He challenged him. Remember, I did a story on it that Caleb Love was challenged by Tommy Lloyd, and Caleb Love was accepting that challenge to step up his game as a leader and as a defender and as a better shot selector and all that kind of stuff. And we've seen flashes where he's been that. And we've seen what we saw the other night, where just those stupid drives completely out of control, hoping to get a foul and not getting a foul. And then your shot is airballed, the little run floater is airballed and you turn the ball back over. So I don't think it's like time's up, it's over. I think this is continuing Tommy Lloyd challenging Caleb Love, but now I think it's turned. The tone's different in the sense that I think it's become tough love, and no pun intended on Caleb Love. It's the tough love time where, Caleb, I've given you all this rope, and I've let it out and I've let it out and I've let it out, and it's time to start reining that back in, because we've let you try to figure it out on your own, and now it's to the detriment of the team. And you are so good for 3/4 of the games, but that 1/4 of the time we may have to put in. If he went on to say,
that's right,
maybe those guys won't be out there, maybe they'll be on the bench. And I think he's talking about that. I think he's talking about, we saw KJ Lewis make a stupid turnover, and it's like, well, as great as KJ Lewis has been down the stretch, sometimes maybe he has to sit for a minute. Definitely Caleb Love was talking about that too. Maybe they have to sit in that final 2 minutes so they don't turn the ball. I don't know.
The team now is like 14, 15 or something like that in the KenPom rankings. And
there are 16 in both, 16 in net and 16 in KenPom right now.
But 29th, if there was such a thing, in the AP rankings. Because
the receiving votes, RV receiving votes.
Yeah. 25 is Baylor, who they host tonight. We come on here on a Tuesday.
Right.
Again, Arizona, another Tuesday game. This one,
take a nap because you're
late at night at Tuesday,
9 o'clock.
Still a situation where the team has no bad losses. And we mentioned that last week. And normally the program has a bad loss before Christmas sometimes, and they don't have that this year. Could you say they don't have any great wins? They've got some decent wins. Certainly, West Virginia is in the top 25. I know Cincinnati's come out of it. But I think, the jury's still out on this team. They've kind of, I was kind of saying NIT year. I think the six game winning streak has kind of pushed that aside for now. But I still think it's a team with something to prove, and a team that needs a big time win as well, as we take a look at their upcoming games. Baylor tonight at home, and then at Texas Tech this weekend.
Yeah. And that's not the whole schedule either. After that, they go to Iowa State, they play at Kansas. I mean, it gets pretty rough at times during this stretch. But I'm with you, Jason. I don't think we quite yet know what this team's going to be, but I sure the heck like it better right now than I did 3 weeks ago. They look a lot better, and in fact, at times, there have been times where you're thinking they look as good as anybody for a little stretch. When they build 14 and 15 point leads on decent basketball teams, Cincinnati and even UCF, and you're thinking, well, this is a pretty good team. And then all of a sudden, there they go again, back into that, you could lose to Princeton again, the way this team's playing. So, we'll have to, we just have to see them figure it out. And I'm running out of patience sometimes. I think Tommy Lloyd is too, with why can't they figure out this? They're making the same mistakes over and over. It's the not being able to thrive with a big lead. Why? Tommy says this all the time. A 15 point lead doesn't immediately have to become a 20 and then a 30 and then a 40, but at least be okay with that 15 point lead.
Henry Vasar's got an interesting statistics, Pat. I believe he leads the team in, you're right there? Yeah. Vasar leads the team in plus minus, which is rare for a player coming off the bench. The 3-pointers were fantastic. He adds that to his game. Oh gosh, that could do so much. And then if he also continues to be aggressive around the rim, and more aggressive there, boy, he can be so much better. But what do you make of this plus minus ratio that has such a good statistic at? Does that have to do with maybe, who he's on the floor with, and he's coming off the bench with KJ Lewis, who's been hot recently? What's your take on Henry Vasar's plus minus. Do you think there's anything to that, or just a little bit of a coincidence at this point?
No, I think he works for that. I think perhaps he comes in when one of the other team's big guys goes out. I don't know. That could be a plus. I really think that he's matured quickly in this role because he's had to. And I wish he would start, to be honest with you, Jason. I
wonder if he will. I think Tommy Lloyd's a little superstitious here. They won 6 in a row. He's not going to tinker with the starting lineup. Yeah. Let's say they beat Baylor tonight and lose to Texas Tech. I think you'll see that'll give him the okay to make the change in the starting lineup.
I would hope so. I'd like to see him, turn that 20, 25 minutes into 27, 28 and be the starter. And let's see how it goes from there. I think that he's deserved it. But I know what you mean. They're perfectly content in a 6-game winning streak to not shake things up. And right now I wouldn't shake anything up.
Yeah. Jason Barr, Pat Paris here on the Huddle, KGUN9's weekly streaming sports talk show, talking about Arizona basketball. Here is, we hit mid-January. The Wildcats, a little rough start to the season, very much unlike what Tommy Lloyd's first 3 seasons are, but they've kind of hit their stride here for a little bit with 6 wins in a row, including a 4-0 stretch to begin Big 12 play. Pat, I think that I think that I would say the other thing I want to see them do more of is run the floor a little bit more. Yeah. When they were doing well and we had a good Tommy Lloyd team the last couple of years, there was that high-low play that's missing a little bit. Can't Jaden Bradley and Vasar come up with a little bit of a chemistry to kind of do that high-low that we saw from like a Kirk Creason and Umar Ballo or a Tubelis? I think that's one thing that's missing a little bit. And then when they run a little bit, give them a little bit more confidence. That's one thing I would like to see that's a little bit missing. I'm not sure if it's a personnel thing or why we haven't seen as much of that high-low play that we've seen in previous years.
I think it's a personnel thing. And I thought the same thing when I was watching the game the other night. I thought, once they got that lead, wouldn't it be nice to kind of maybe slow it down a little bit and make the other team work defending your bigs inside by doing the high-low, and they never went to it. And I think that once Mo Krivas went out, that idea kind of went out. And I don't know why it has to. You've got the skilled guards to get the ball inside to a pretty skilled big man in Vasar. I think he's quite capable of doing that. And I'm not sure why they've just kind of gone away from it, Jason. It's always been a weapon under Tommy Lloyd, and I don't know why it's just gone.
Yeah, that's one thing we'd like to see more here for. All right, so that's Arizona against.
Back to your real quick. Back to your running the floor more. When they were building those couple of big leads against UCF, that's what they did, right? Yeah. They ran the floor really well, and when teams like UCF who are okay with that, that's when you really have to take it to them, and they did it, and then all of a sudden they got away from it again. I don't know. I don't know why they can't thrive with leads. They just can't.
Yeah, well, they'll have another chance tonight when Arizona takes on Baylor, looking for its 5th straight win to begin Big 12 play. All right, we'll finish it up here with look back at the Huddle poll question, and that had to do with Tom Brady, kind of a little bit of a hot topic that people are talking about. Hey, he is going to call the Super Bowl, right? So, let's see. Yeah, Raiders owner. Okay, only 31% say he's not very good, huh? Yeah, I would have gone with B. It's Gay B reading it left to right. No, he is the Raiders owner. How he does, Pat, in the Super Bowl is going to be what people remember from his first year. If Peace thought to have a really strong Super Bowl, nobody's going to remember some flub in week 3, right? But if he makes a gaffe in the Super Bowl, I think that's what people are going to remember. So we say, the jury's still out in Arizona basketball this year. Well, even though we're, towards the end of the NFL season, how he does in the Super Bowl is going to go a long way to make people remember how he does and how he was a broadcaster for 1 year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Tom Brady has approached this broadcasting thing no different than he approached other things in his, Hall of Fame career as a quarterback. And I fully expect him to be prepared each week as he's calling games and then be ready for the Super Bowl. I think that we're going to remember him as being pretty good, but I also think we're going to remember him as being a 1-year, analyst, and that's it.
Yeah, I think so. And I mentioned Michael Jordan. Jeff Gordon also did it and then went to Hendrick Motorsports as their second in command, right? So Brady would be following a similar path to that. So that's kind of that's kind of how I see it. I'd be a little surprised if he was back, but the other thing is they're paying him a ton of money, so there's that involved too.
Well, and back in my Pittsburgh days, Mario Lemieux, one of the great hockey players of all time, ended up owning the Penguins as it came out of bankruptcy because they owed him so much money, and he helped them thrive, and they got Sidney Crosby and won Stanley Cups, and now he's not the majority owner anymore, but he did a pretty nice job there too.
Yes, there's another analogy as well. All right, so the divisional playoff, maybe the best weekend in the football season when you have all those games, those 4 games, and get the 1 and the 2 seeds and both in action. So that's going to be a fun weekend this weekend for the NFL.
I hope the games are a little more competitive. There was only one competitive game the whole weekend, and
I didn't expect them to be. You're right. But I wasn't I thought Denver would get blown out. That happened. I was surprised when they got that first touchdown there.
I thought the Vikings would play a lot better than they did last night, Jason. I was really surprised.
They had a lot of fans in that stadium too.
They did, because I think they jumped on the buy ticket buttons quickly, getting out of Minnesota to go to Glendale. But it just when that Matthew Stafford
right. I was just going to say that.
And
there's so mad.
There's some that are really upset with that call that say, and I'm one of them. Like, yes, his arm kind of went like that, but then it stopped, and the ball just kind of flicked out. Like, I don't know, that's a huge swing, obviously, because the Vikings scooped that up and score. Now it's a 10-10 game, and it's a whole different ball game than it was there. But it was not competitive. That game was not competitive at all.
Yeah. All right, we will be back here same time next week for the Huddle. I'm Jason Barr for Pat. Thanks everybody for watching. Well, I will sound much better next week, I promise.
Let's hope so.
Well, I don't want to promise, but I think I'm at the end of this. So thanks for bearing with me here for this week, and hope everybody's doing well and having an okay start to the new year. And we'll see you right back here same time next week.